I appreciate your time today. I have a short presentation of under 10 minutes, plus we'll have time for discussion and feedback. Next slide. My purpose today is to propose a change management process and to seek approval to proceed for Phase 2 of the Residential Redesign Initiative. This initiative is in preparation for the Phase 1 test implementation scheduled March to September. A number of issues have surfaced during the design and development of Phase 1. These issues indicate that despite a long history of study and consultation, there are some red flags. So what have we heard? From staff, there's a lack of interest even in the information that's available. That the regional managers are not committing resources to Phase 1. Not everyone is getting the information that's available. Contractors are concerned about renegotiating, and there's a lot of toing and froing still on the best course of action. The situation is, we have a project ready for launch, but are the people ready? Change in organizations takes place at many levels and can be carefully planned. However, the change occurs at the individual level and is an internal process. This is where change management process is needed to transition individuals and their organizations to change their behavior. Next slide. Using a change management approach will address the behavior changes, get people ready for the change, and provide change leadership. Project management has a disciplined approach of initiation, planning, execution and control, and closure. Change management also has its own disciplined approach to formulate, plan, implement, manage transition, and sustain change. What we will see in future slides is how these two approaches interact and have distinct time frames and activities. Next slide. In project management, we talk about the iron triangle: budget, scope, time. Change one, and the others move, they shift. In change management, there's a flow to change behavior. It is not linear, and no more than a child's development occurs like clockwork. I like the analogy of a pond, the ripples in a pond. Change management activities seek to move people from the current state to the future state. I'd like to describe some of the change management activities that would occur, and I just want to give full warning that I'm going to use some new lexicon of terminology. So we will identify areas of resistance and support, assess the readiness, the capabilities, receptivity, address organizational structures and culture, prepare the organization for change, identify agents of change who can make sense of the change, empower the individuals, the recipients, to take the steps, and identify the integrators who can bridge between the old and the new. Next slide. In this slide, we can see how project management and change management phases interact. While the Phase 1 test implementation is being project managed, the change management phases for Phase 2 need to kick in. This draft proposal shows how some key milestones in Phase 1 lead up to Phase 2. So when we launch the change management phases, we start with formulating, reviewing the project documentation, and mining those reports for the need for change, translating the plan into tangible objectives and benefits aligned with needs and expectations. Then we get into the key work of planning, creating the stakeholder engagement plan, and assessing the readiness, in order to move into implementation, where we mobilize the stakeholders to adopt the change. The manage transition phase integrates the changes into operations. It measures the adoption rate and monitors the adoption rate and tweaks the plan as necessary. sustaining change is really a recognition that change is not a one-time event. It's really about giving people voice and ensuring that they are engaged in continuous improvement. We do take that time to measure the benefits realization. Next slide. I have a handout with a first draft of the cost components of the proposed change management approach. I have assumed internal resources for the change manager, admin, and tech support, and that the admin would be shared with project support. We'll be discussing the communication plan next, and so this resource plan assumes the use of video recording equipment to record meetings, to make information available on demand to people when they need it, and this will be mentioned in the communication plan. I'd like to check in now to see if there are any questions you'd like to address now or wait till later. Next slide. I'd like to drill down to one of the deliverables for the change management planning phase, the communication plan. This communication plan uses 4 levels of enrollment. The first level, awareness, has the goal of people knowing what is happening. The second, understanding, has the goal of people knowing the how and the why and can explain it to others. The third, support, has the goal of people speaking positively. And the ultimate level of commitment is that people are contributing and taking action. I have 2 handouts that provide 2 views. One is an initial view that looks at different channels and the frequency for each channel and provides some examples of possible key messages. The next iteration adds some examples of the stakeholders that we know are having issues: the staff, the regional management, the contractors, the community. But really, this is the start of crafting the plan. The ultimate final plan will address all of the stakeholders, the key messages, the impact on the project, and this will build on the work already done. Next slide. This brief introduction to change management and its cost components, and some of the examples of the activities and deliverables, is intended to answer the question of whether using a change management approach in the residential redesign project will produce a better result and address the identified issues. I think it can, given the opportunity to proceed. Now we have time for discussion and feedback.